has some total sewer main segments of about 2,500. So when we talk about where our sewer is, we had a big map that was on the wall, and that was our sewer map. We did not have this information that would be available to folks online to be able to manipulate, to be able to look and see where our sewer is available. So let's say, for example, a developer calls and he says, I want to develop this land and I want to know where I'll connect the sewer main. We would go to the map that you see down here in your right-hand corner. And that was a paper map that we have hanging on the wall. And so there'd be little tiny numbers on there, and we'd figure out what a little tiny number is. We go reference it in an Excel spreadsheet. And then we tell them what the elevation was. We tell them how big the main was. We tell them where the manholes were. We tell them what their opportunity was for being able to connect to our sewer. In addition to this, this is really hard to process and it's really hard to visualize. I know when you all did your tour of the waste collection, you saw John's maps on the wall where he's highlighted and circled and where we have been in, we've lined, we've rehabbed manholes. But it's hard to keep up to date and that's hard to share with other people unless you're out of the collection house and you can see all that. So where do we go from there? So again, also wanted to kind of point out, you know, where are the, how do we track the historical work that we've done? And actually we have the previous guy who was in collections, he actually kept diaries. And so just like day by day, whenever we would go in and he would touch our sewer system, he would actually take paper notes. And so we also have some of that information. And we're just trying to get all of this out of people's heads, all of this out of file cabinets and get it into a database where we can actually use it, where we can visualize it, where we can make it accessible to people who are coming into our community, who want to develop in our community. But also, we want to be able to use data to start making the decisions as we are investing our very limited resources that we have. How can we, you know, put numbers to data that we have, and where do we prioritize where we are making our investments? So sanitary sewer projects, since we've done since 2009, we did the I&I reduction assessment and reduction plan. In 2009, that's where we come up with the pipes that we, or the sewer mains that we want to line, and our lining project as well as our manholes to help reduce our inflow and our infiltration, which is that storm water that's getting to the plants and that we're treating when we don't necessarily need to. We're driving up our expenses and making it so that we're going to have to, you know, upgrade our plants sooner. So we've been working on that, and then we had a sanitary sewer evaluation study in 2015. So far, we've had a very reactive approach towards how we are updating and how we are investing into our sanitary sewer. So what we want to do is get more information and come up with a proactive solution to how we're investing our funds. We have, like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of institutional knowledge, but it's in people's heads or it's in our notebooks, it's in file cabinets. We're going to be running into this issue with, you know, the retirement of SIMB too. So, you know, trying to get this where we all have access to it. And then also trying to protect our investments and protect our residents so that they don't have to call us at 2 o'clock in the morning. So the good news is that's old news. A few months ago, 10 months ago, Alongo reached out to me. He said, I have something I want to show you. I have an approach that I've been working on. I'd like to partner with you to show you what we can do. So as I mentioned, I was spearheading this project 10 months ago, took on the role of the interim city manager, and just so proud of our public works staff who are seeing the value in this, seeing how it can be useful to our department, and running with it, taking the horns with it. So glad that they're here to be here this evening and to be able to show the work that they've done to City Council. So without further ado, you want to jump in here? I want to introduce Alongo, who he'll tell you who he is and what he does, and the best one to do that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate the opportunity. My name is Alongo Bieber. My background is in civil engineering, and with the MBA background, I worked for a major consulting firm in Kansas City for the last 17 years. And I launched NEAR to help communities like City of Warrensburg. And we've been helping a lot of communities like City of Warrensburg in Missouri and Kansas. We launched it like 20 months ago. We wanted to prove and get a pilot study. So I reached out to Danielle 10, 12 months ago, and she's graciously accepted. So thank you so much again. So the data-driven decision making, it's been helping a lot of bigger communities to look at the data and leveraging some of the modern tools like artificial intelligence and machine learning to help make a proactive data-driven decisions. I work with a big company, I'm helping a lot of big communities like Philadelphia, City of Seattle, but I wanted to create something that could be useful for a lot of communities like yours. So what we do is we collect all the data that's available, the age of the pipe, the material, the size of the pipe, the manholes, the maintenance history, operational history, and also any CCTV video that's been taken in the last 5 years. We also look at where the data gaps in the system and how we can populate that system, a missing material or missing elevation using best intent judgment. And also we leverage a lot of open source data, the soil type, the road, the location, kind of whether the pipe is located underneath the local roads or maybe highways, how much road it's experiencing, how about the groundwater affecting the pipe, the trees which is close to the pipe that can get into roots, so that kind of stuff. So we leverage more than 100 variables, and then we also leverage some of the modern tools like machine learning to predict when that asset is going to fail into the future. In the industry, the framework is being used by wastewater professionals for a long time, how to come up with the risk score for each asset. The best approach is called likelihood of failure and consequence of failure, and coming up with this BRE, which is the total risk of any asset. So City of Warrensburg wants to provide this excellent services to their citizens at the lowest cost possible. We want to know what is the risk in terms of 1 through 5. 5 is the riskiest asset, and 1 is the safest asset in the ground. So likelihood of failure is a probability, when asset is going to fail. It could be like 80% chance or 50% chance based on, the age of the pipe and all of the variables I mentioned before. The consequence of failure is what if the asset fails? Is it going to affect 5 people or is it going to affect 50 people? So by doing combination of these scores, all the riskiest assets, the high risk assets, which can impact a lot of people, and not only socially, environmentally, or also economic impact to the community, we can push all the risky assets to the top so that city can focus on fixing those assets proactively. So this has been used in the industry for a long time, but the likelihood of failure, they use age as a proxy, but we leverage machine learning tools to come up with the probability more accurate. So the last 10 months, like Daniel mentioned, we worked with everyone, the group. We've been meeting every week just to understand the system more rigorously. We converted the paper maps into the digital maps. So we uploaded all the data, and we also leveraged all the information to come up with the score. And then the risk level based on the range I shown on the map here. You range from very good assets all the way to very high risk assets. So the breakdown of all those assets in terms of manholes and also gravity main, you see the percentage of assets which is very high risk, and also the average score for the entire city is also 2.9 and 2.6, which is really good from average score perspective compared to well-run utilities. But you can look at the very high risk on the gravity main that you see, pretty close to 14%. So city can now leverage those funds to bring more proactive decisions to fix those assets. So we can actually jump into a demo. I can show you really quick what we have done and how to access this. This information is available to all the operational crew and also Daniel and everyone if interested. So this is the dashboard. You see the gravity main, all the gravity main is uploaded, and the distribution of a percentage distribution of this likelihood of failure, consequence of failure, and you can see the the distribution here, what percentage of assets falls into the high red, orange, and yellow. So you really want it to be in the yellow and orange and not wants to get to the red. Kind of gives you how many assets in that red. So how we can maybe change the operational maintenance a little bit just to reduce this red and push this into orange, or maybe lining to those pipes or rehabbing or replacing those assets in the next 5 years, 10 years before it become a catastrophic failure. So that kind of gives you the distribution of the entire assets. And we also give you the mix of the pie chart. They can see how all those assets are, and then also you can look into, if you want to look into any particular assets, you can kind of zoom into that location and you can kind of like see, rotate this map. If you wanted like a little bit of satellite view, you can do a satellite view. You can also do some 3D if you want. And also you can zoom into like any assets you want to search on the search bar and then see, where that asset is located. You kind of zoom into that location. It also gives you the properties of those particular pipe. And you can also change your asset types, if it's a gravity main, lift station, and also what kind of manhole. You can look into a different asset types, gives you the distribution of your risk. So essentially, the color kind of matches. If it's a yellow, it's a moderate risk. If it's orange, it's a high risk. If it's a red, if it's a very high risk. So I think the last 10 months has been extremely productive to kind of give this power to not only the operational group, but also Danielle and her team, to GIS team, to look at this data set and see what's happening in the system more comprehensively. And we also embarked on cleaning the stormwater data set as we speak. That is also, they've been working with their operational team for the last couple of months, and that will probably take another 3 or 4 months to finish that stuff. So just gives you the breakdown of the entire sewer and stormwater assets when it's done. But also, our platform is also not only just the risk, but also kind of a real-time understanding of what's happening in the system. And we can kind of build a real-time model to see exactly what's happening, flow velocity and all this stuff. But we're not there yet, but I think this is the first step to understand the risk. And then, but slowly we can expand into kind of a real-time monitoring, modeling, optimization, and leveraging the existing system to give more cost-effective solutions for the city. So I'll stop right there, and then I'm welcome any questions you guys may have.
So this is live now, right?
Say live, it is not available to the public yet, no.
My apology, but to staff, that's usable data, right?
Yes.
And so this will help us budget out, et cetera, right?
Yes.
By any chance, is there a rough estimate of what it would take to get us out of the red?
We haven't done that yet, and we could spend a little bit of time looking at that, and putting some numbers to that. We have a big plant upgrade coming up, as well as a couple other projects. So we can look into that, and we can try to get a rough estimate together.
Yeah, it's not critical for, I just kind of think it'd be interesting to know how big the.
And I think one of the interesting things about the model that we would talk about possibly, and Alonzo can jump in and talk a little bit more about this too, but not only just the cost of what it would to repair or to replace it, to bring it up, but what is the cost if it fails? And so I think that's something that we're also trying to get our heads wrapped around. Is what is the cost of doing nothing and continuing to let this get worse?
Well, it's a good tool. Is also to help you be proactive, so you can not just focus on when we get to the problem, but how do you get ahead of it so you never get there, right? So.
Yeah, cost information would be, we have a tool internally calculate those costs, and then based on how much time you want to implement this, we can feel what's, we get a rough estimate of the unit cost for different pipe types, material and where it is located, we can easily see that.
Yeah, so this section of town that you're looking at right now, this is where, when we did the I&I study, this is where we identified a lot of infiltration that we were having. So this is where we've really been focusing, where we've been doing those lining projects. So you can see, one of the things that's nice about this, too, you can see where we made our improvements. You can see that we're doing good work in this part of town compared to some other areas where we need to probably start focusing our attention. Having that visual very helpful to us. And we're very much looking forward to it. We're very much looking forward to working and getting the stormwater up and having this sort of system for our stormwater too. We actually already have the stormwater outlets infrastructure already in GIS in a shape file or a layer. But what we're doing now is just verifying that the information that we have in the system is accurate. We also know that, when we did the stormwater one, and it's the same with the sewer, it's keeping it up to date. That's also important. We've had new subdivisions that have gone in place. We've had new stormwater infrastructure that has gone in since we've done these things. So making sure we have a process in place to keep it up to date. But we're really looking forward to getting the stormwater one done. And in the next couple of months or so, we'll be able to show you a similar system like this that we did with our streets, because we just did our pavement condition index as well.
So you said that this also takes into account soil type, tree roots, load from streets or highways. Would you also provide recommendations on future materials to use to combat some of that failure? And
Yeah, what we have seen is the one of the type of material, which is Jen already know, corrugated metal pipe is being used in the Midwest a lot. That's been failing like 25, 30 years lifespan. They're supposed to withstand like 60 years or 50 to 60 years. So yeah, we don't recommend that material. So yeah, that kind of, you can't tell the story itself, like, which pipe is failing more often than withstanding. So yeah, definitely we'll give recommendations. What kind of material you can use based on the soil type where you're putting in and what kind of application that is. So,
okay.
Any question? Well, thank you very much for coming to Warrensburg and all of the folks that Danielle introduced on staff that carried it. Thank you. It
thank you so much.
gives you a lot more data to make decisions with, right? Okay. We're on down to 7, second reading of an ordinance. An ordinance adopting the annual operating budget for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2021 for the city of Warrensburg, Missouri, presented by Marcella.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is the second reading for the annual operating budget that begins October 1st of 2021. I outlined a brief synopsis of what the budget includes in my letter to the council that gives you the total revenues and total expenditures and what we have planned to either put to reserves or possibly use of reserves. The majority of that is in water pollution control, which is our depreciation expenses, and our principal payments is what shows that $2 million that takes that number down. And the projected ending fund balance that I have is based on July 31st numbers. So if the ending fund balance were not to change for August and September, then that's what we would have projected if everything came in as planned and was spent as planned. So we know that fund balance is always a moving number. Until you get an audited financial statement, you don't know exactly what that number is until all of the audit entries are done at the end of the year. But that gives you a good idea that all of our funds are in good position. Remember that fund balance is not cash balance. Fund balance includes all of our assets and liabilities. So your cash balances are a little different than that. And so that's just what I want to bring to your attention. We work on a target of 50% of expenditures for fund balance and keep 22% in reserves for cash balance of our expenditures. I'm happy to answer any questions you have with you. The presentation that was done for first reading, along with the recap of the budget worksheets, were part of the packet.
Oh, no questions.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Oh, my fault.
Oh, move to approve second reading by title.
This is for adoption or rejection. Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, second reading of an ordinance increasing the minimum building permit fee. An ordinance amending chapter 6, article 2 of the Code of City Ordinances, the city of Warrensburg, Missouri, regarding the minimum building permit fee. Barb.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. We had a first reading a couple weeks ago on this. As you'll recall, staff is not recommending an increase in the overall building permit fees for the coming year, starting October 1st. But we are recommending an increase in our minimum building permit fee. Currently, the minimum permit fee is $30, and we are recommending an increase to $75. That very closely would match the expenses staff have in creating the files, reviewing permits and plans, and then doing the subsequent inspections and closing out of permits and issuing of certificates of occupancy. Our average cost on those is right around $75. And that information was in your packet at the last council meeting. There was a request for some additional information from what was in that packet, and we've provided that in the meeting information tonight. Giving you some information for 2019 and 2020 to compare to year-to-date, year to July 1st of 2021. And this year's numbers are pretty on track with the prior 2 years when you look at how many permits use a minimum permit fee. Of all the ones that we issue, about 51% of those that are subject to this type of fee do end up being charged the minimum permit fee. So for January 1 to July 8th of this year, that was 69 permits that were charged the minimum fee. And when we look at prior years, that number for the same period in 2020 was 78. Same period in 2019 was 76. So there's a pretty good consistency there. Even through the pandemic, we're seeing the percentage is about the same. Staff would recommend approval of the ordinance. It would not go into effect until October 1. That will give contractors some time to factor the increased cost into their bids with homeowners as they take jobs for remodel work or residential, smaller residential electric, mechanical, plumbing type work, usually fall into this type of fee. Be happy to answer any questions.
Move to approve said ordinance to second reading by title. Close enough. Okay.
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
This is for adoption or rejection. Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. We all planned to mess up on your last night. so
Hey,
keep-
keep me on my toes. That's okay.
All
Don't
right, item
embarrass, I do.
7.3, second reading of an ordinance authorizing city manager to enter a signed lease agreement with Sutterberg Roofing. An ordinance authorizing city manager to enter into a lease agreement with, twice there. So. All right, Danielle.
Thank you again, Mayor and City Council. This is the second reading of an ordinance for the lease agreement for the Hawthorne sign that the city owns. This would be for the bottom right hand panel for Sutterberg Roofing. It is an annual agreement, and we would receive $600 per payment. We do have the ability to not renew within 30 days, either party. there any questions?
Move to approve.
This is for adoption or rejection. Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Okay. All right, item number 8, a first and second reading ordinance. An ordinance amending chapter 2, article 3 of the code of ordinances regarding city clerk, presented by Danielle Dillon.
So, at our last meeting, we had an opportunity to review a new job description for the city clerk. With Cindy's retirement coming up at the end of this week, we thought this would be an opportunity for city council to look at a goal that they have been trying to get into the city's budget with a communication specialist or someone to help us tell our city story with our Facebook, on our website, just to kind of do a better job of getting our story out there. So we revised that job description. You all had an opportunity to take a look at it. However, because we're adding some additional responsibilities to that, we were recommending taking the direct supervision from city council to the city manager. So while city council would still appoint this person, the direct supervision of the city manager would allow to provide direction on goals as well as feedback on performance on the day-to-day activities of the city clerk. A couple other things that came up when we were taking a look at this ordinance would just be to bring it in line as far as residency requirements for what we already have in our personnel policy, as well as bring it in line with some other appointed positions that are in by city ordinance. And then the other thing is changing an ordinance to allow the city manager to appoint a temporary city clerk with the city clerk who is on vacation when we have a meeting, or if something needs to be attested or signed when the city clerk is out of the office. We are respectfully requesting this go as a first and second reading this evening. We did talk about it at our last city council meeting. We have not had any feedback from any residents or anyone who would be concerned about this change. But because we are looking for a new person to fill this role, we are respectfully requesting it to go as first and second reading.
Move to pass that ordinance to second reading by title.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
This is an ordinance amending chapter 2, article 3 of the code of city ordinances of the city of Warrensburg, Missouri regarding city clerk. This is for adoption or rejection. Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay. Item 9, other business. 9.1, joint resolution reestablishing agreement between the city council and Parks and Recreation Board to ensure consistency and standard practices, presented by Danielle Doolin and Danielle Fessler.
So if you all remember, back in July of 2020, City Council passed a resolution to withdraw from the previous joint resolution, which was basically stating that we would no longer provide some support services to the Parks and Recreation Department. After some joint city council meetings with the Parks and Rec Department and through some conversations, we decided that it would, to make sure that we're continuing to provide exceptional municipal services to all of the residents of the city of Warrensburg and those who visit the city of Warrensburg as well, that a good, strong Parks and Rec Department is imperative. So we started working towards a new joint resolution. Some of the things that we were very intentional about in the joint resolution was developing an orientation of new board members as well as new city council members, and making sure that we are clearly defining the role of each party and of the two boards in providing services to the city of Warrensburg. We also outlined ways to improve communication between the boards and provide clear expectations of policies and procedures that are to be followed by both the Parks Department as well as other city departments when working with the Parks Department. We also made sure that we were including the Parks Department in any of our strategic planning discussions. So making sure that we're talking about parks when we're doing our budget, as well as talking about parks when we're talking about our capital improvement planning processes. The last thing that we did in this joint resolution was establish a process for a way to have, establish a, I don't want to call it an administrative hearing process because that's not the right language, but that's what keeps coming to my mind, but a conflict resolution process that if something were to ever come up between the Parks Department and another city department that we could not come to an agreement on, that we would have a process in place where the two boards would be able to meet and to have a discussion and to figure out what is really truly in the best interest of Warrensburg residents as it relates to parks. So that is what you will read in this joint resolution when you read through it. The Parks and Recreation Board did approve the joint resolution at their August meeting. So now it is before City Council for your approval as well. Once this resolution is approved, we will start the second point of this, which is improving communication between the two boards. And we will schedule a joint meeting with City Council and Parks Department to talk through a lot of the things and start moving forward on how we can continue to provide great parks and recs for our community. Ms. Fessler, is there anything you wanted to add this evening?
I'm really grateful that we've had the opportunity this past year to work with council and park board and meet, and I really look forward to working together more. And I think the communication will help. We've already opened it up a lot in the last 10 months. Danielle's been the interim director or city manager, I'm sorry. But we're really looking forward to continuing to be partners and making great parks for the city and wanting people to come and enjoy our facilities.
Any other comments from Park Board or? Always been kind to let me speak.
Ms. Erica.
I figured.
Mayor, Council, Ms. Fessler, thank you so much for giving us opportunity to be here this evening. We are so very excited about all of the work that has gone forth. A true cooperation, having a working team that was put together from members of council and from the Park and Rec Board, having open communication, getting a better understanding of expectations and what needs were. Big learning experience and a great opportunity for us to build something that's going to be better than it has been before. One of the things that we're definitely looking forward to is we feel like we have put together a joint resolution that will leave things better, not only than they ever have been, but that so future leaders don't fall back into the same situation. So we see a clear path forward, one that is cooperative, one that benefits all of our citizens here in our community. And we are very much looking forward to a very strong partnership. So once again, thank you to the working team who met to get this done. Thank you very much to both Danielle's and to the mayor and to Taro who put in extra time with that. And we're looking forward to a great partnership. Thank you.
Else? Motion.
Move to approve joint resolution.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. 9.2, preliminary plat of Juniper Ridge, fourth plat, presented by Barb Carroll.
We have before us this evening a preliminary plat of Juniper Ridge, fourth plat. This is on the west side of Spring Ridge Road, just south of Clark Street. And before you get to the Iron Horse subdivision. So this lies north of Iron Horse subdivision on a tract of land that is about 5.67 acres in size, owned by Larry and Debbie Stucker, and to be developed by Kevin Stucker, the developer. The plat lays out 18 buildable lots, one unbuildable lot that is designated as a stormwater detention tract, and one new street called Mahogany Court. The property is zoned R3 already, and the developer has indicated an interest in building duplexes on the lots. There are a handful of lots on the west end of the cul-de-sac that are larger and would be able to have triplexes or fourplexes on them. though that's not at this point what he's indicated to staff. The Planning Commission considered this at their meeting last week and recommended approval with four conditions. Only one of those is something that will change anything on the plat itself. The first one, the last sentence, an additional sentence will be added to note number 2 regarding tract A, just making sure it's understood it is not a developable lot in terms of a building permit, because it does not have any frontage on a city street. It is a landlocked tract. The other are items putting the developer on notice of those items that will be needed to be submitted when the final plat is submitted in the forthcoming months. Staff would recommend approval of the plat with these 4 conditions. Preliminary plats have always historically been approved by a voice vote. There is no resolution or ordinance that go with them. So if your interest is in approving this evening, we would recommend making a motion to approve the plat with the conditions recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then those can be entered into the record through that resolution they've passed. Be happy to answer any questions.
Move to approve as presented by Ms. Carroll.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, item 9.3, a resolution amending downtown Warrensburg facade grant program beginning October 1st, 2021.
So our facade grant committee is comprised, and the program is comprised of a partnership between the city of Warrensburg, the City of Warrensburg Historic Preservation Commission, and Warrensburg Main Street. And it was established in 2013 to promote reinvestment and preservation of our historic buildings in downtown Warrensburg, specifically within the dream boundary, which in 2013 was something we all knew what that was. But as time has passed, that has kind of moved into the background. And so we did provide in the packet, and we'll put on the website with the updated materials, a copy of that boundary. It's not all the land that is in the central business district, but a tighter boundary that more closely hugs the Pine Street and Holden Street intersection. So this is a grant program that since its inception has provided a 50-50 match. So it's 50% grant funds and 50% private match from the property owner or the business owner, the tenant of the building. And the maximum grant has been $1,000. The city has included $5,000 in its budget annually since 2013 for this program. And Main Street has provided $2,000 in their budget for the program annually. We have never given out all $7,000 in any of our individual years. We have seen it's been very effective. We have given 35 grants out, which is for a total of $25,877 in grant funds, which leveraged $57,000 in private match for a total of basically $83,000 since its inception. Grants are typically most commonly awarded for awnings, signs, window or door repair, painting, or tuck pointing. In 2020, the city's fiscal year 2020, so our last fiscal year, when the pandemic began, we came to council and asked if we could eliminate the private match requirement. If you'll recall, a lot of businesses were shut down initially in those first few months, and they were using that opportunity to make a reinvestment in their buildings while it wouldn't impact the coming and going of customers for restaurants or retail business. So we were seeing a lot of interest in making repairs, but due to the significant reduction in their income being generated, you as a council did agree, and we eliminated that 50% match requirement. So fiscal year 20 was our most popular year ever. And we did 6 grants that year, and we did give out all of the city's 5,000 and started using some of Main Street's money for the first time. So there's some information there. We've gone back down this year, fiscal year 21. We've done 4 grants for a total of $2,056. So we had several grants, but the dollar amounts were much lower because with the match kicked back in this year. So the committee, which is Jill Purvis and Andrea Glenn from the Preservation Commission, started talking earlier in the summer about what could we do to try to re-energize the program and still get maybe a little closer to our historic preservation purpose, which is not always signs and awnings. I mean, that's useful to the grantee, but it's not necessarily preserving those buildings and taking them forward another 100 years. So what we've done, and there are bullet points in the staff report, so I'll try to, there's really 2 major things we've done. We've created 2 types of grants now. A small scale grant, which will still be up to $1,000, and a large scale grant, which would be up to $5,000, between $1,000 and $5,000, hoping to really incentivize someone to make a significant investment in their property. That type of project is probably more than an awning cost, more than a sign cost. That's going to get into windows, doors, carpentry work, tuck pointing, painting, the type of thing that preserves the building. We think with the funds that have been identified, we would only be able to issue 1 large scale project. So we have created an application window. The other will continue to be, small scale will continue to be first come, first serve. For the large scale, we'll have a 2-month application window of October and November. And so then we will, from October 1 to November 1, and then we hope to make that award by the beginning of, I believe we're making it by the beginning of December. So they have from December until the end of July to complete the project. And then projects, this would be true whether it's large scale or small scale project. We're trying to, instead of, if you meet the Secretary of Interior standards for preservation and rehabilitation, then the private match would go down to 25% and the grant funds would be 75%. If you do not meet that standard, then it would stay at the 50% match requirement. So we're hoping to do, to still have the type of projects we've been having and support a broad base, but hopefully incentivize at least one larger project, and then try to get more historically appropriate projects. You have in your packet a resolution that would adopt these changes by adopting an attachment A, which is the program, the grant rules and process. That's a document that'll be uploaded to our website, and Jill really is the one who markets and spends a lot of time promoting this project or a program to people downtown. Staff does bring it up when we do plan reviews if it's a downtown project as well. And then just for informational purposes, we've included a copy of the application as it would be changed as well. All of that will be uploaded to the city's website upon your approval. It would go into effect October 1. Again, that's the beginning of the grant cycle. This would give applicants about 20 days to prepare for that.
Okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay. Item 9.4, resolution to seek historic preservation grant funding.
Earlier at the end of July, the State Historic Preservation Office announced a cycle of grant funding for preservation grants for the state's fiscal 22 year. This is something your Historic Preservation Commission has been anticipating, as they have been talking for several months and included in the city's budgeting process a request to apply for a grant that would fund a consultant to prepare, to work with the community and the commission to prepare a historic a preservation plan specific to the city of Warrensburg. And you've got a copy of that, the draft of the forms that will be submitted with that, that really go into detail of what they're looking to include in that preservation plan. It provides some background information for the community, but really it sets forward goals for the commission and a plan of work for them for several years to come. They would work closely, the consultant would work closely with the commission as well as with Kristen Dyer, the city planner, to complete that document. The state's process does not, their fiscal year is different than the city's fiscal years. So it will be about an 18-month process through the state. So it will span a couple budget years for the city. But we have included the full expense of the program, including the city's match. It's a 60-40 grant. So the full expense, as well as all the anticipated revenue, is included in the budget that you approved 20 or 30 minutes ago. So we're hopeful that we will be successful. The pre-application is due September 30th.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. All right, item 10, appearances of council not listed on the agenda.
Doesn't look like anything.
All right. Item number 11, miscellaneous matters from the mayor and or city council. Don't have anything specific tonight, Emil. I don't. Item 12, we don't have any mayoral appointments. 13, director of finance report. Marcella's gonna tell us she found extra money somewhere. Woo-hoo.
I think there's a recap there, a lot of information. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
No, I appreciate the detail you put in, because trying to keep up with it. City manager report.
Chief Lockhарт's gonna talk to you guys a little bit about animal control.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of the city council.
Evening, chief.
There's been a lot going on actually, there hasn't been anything going on with animal control for a while. As you all know, starting January 1, the shelter was turned over to a private nonprofit. At that time, it was agreed that we would provide animal control service until they were able to get folks trained. So we had 2 officers on our day shift. Fortunately, they had come from Clinton, Missouri, where police officers actually handle animal control. So they had some training and we had designated them as our animal control officers. We have been waiting to hear when they would have some trained animal control officers. So Danielle and I met with the people from WAR this last week, and apparently there was some miscommunication over that issue. So we're working with them to try and identify how we're going to move forward with including an animal control officer in their operation that can work with us. By us, I'm meaning the police officers. In the interim, what we are going to do is what we designated last January and continue to do that. We've reminded our police officers that we are doing animal control on a limited basis. We respond to vicious animals. We respond and issue tickets when we should. And this is in response to a complaint that you all received from one of our community members who was misinformed about how we handle animal service. We've contacted that homeowner or that resident and let her know that we do still provide service. We also contacted the resident who had the dogs that are misbehaving and let her know that that's not acceptable and that future violations will result in her being ticketed for her dogs running at large. We did also, they agreed to let us have keys to the animal control truck that we turned over to them on January 1st so that we can use that for transporting animals should we need to out to the shelter. The officers have all the intake paperwork, so they're familiar with all of that. So that should be fairly seamless. We have another meeting with the staff from the Warrensburg Animal Rescue the first part of October. And hopefully we'll be able to get, hopefully we will be able to get some stuff worked out so that we'll be able to provide our residents the level of service that they've come to expect. y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Good by me.
I have one more thing for you, if I may. Sergeant Kirby Carroll's retiring. His ceremony will be Sunday at 1 o'clock. So he's been with the city for 37 years, and we're gonna have some barbecue and send him off in style. So if you're able to stop by the police station, we're gonna move it outside in the parking lot because we're expecting a lot of folks. So we'd love to see all of you there, and I know that he would love to be able to see all of you as well.
And the date again?
It's this upcoming Sunday. I can't remember what the date is exactly.
I've
That's
got
fine.
It's from 1 to 3. 19 from 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Before we move on, any other staff or community input? Chamber, Main Street? Okay. Item number 15, closed session. If someone would be kind enough to read that, please.
Vote to close part of this meeting pursuant to section 610.021 in the revised statutes of Missouri relating to 3, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees by a public governmental body when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded. 12, document or any documents related to a negotiated contract until a contract is executed or all proposals are rejected. 13, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. All right, we are adjourned.